What's up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm really excited to bring you a new knife unboxing and review. First, quick pocket check. Today I have my Spyderco Andela. This is the DLT Trading exclusive with 20 CV, and this is a Seki City, Japan knife. Really like these. I'm surprised how much I like these little lockback knives from Spyderco. Pleasantly surprised. Very happy to carry these. They're really nice and they feel really comfortable in hand. Let's go ahead and jump into the new knife. I have a knife here from Kershaw that I'm very excited to go over with y'all today. This is the Kershaw Skyline, and this is a Blade HQ exclusive. This one here, if you know anything about Blade HQ, they love them some Jade G10 variants of knives. And this one here is going to be one of those. Now, the full disclosure, I have opened and carried this knife and handled this knife. The reason that I do it this way is so that you can see exactly how they come packaged. I can consolidate my unboxing with my review video and give you the initial impressions and full review all at the same time. And then you can just subscribe because you love this video so much and get your notification bell set to all so that when you get notices for future videos, that'll include the potential long-term review, because I have a feeling this one's going to be sticking around. Let me run through the specs real quick. This has and of course this is part of the Blade HQ exclusive, 3.1 inch 20 CV blade steel. It has 4.25 inch G10 handles. Overall length is 7.35 inches and claimed 2.51 ounces. So this is going to be a ultra lightweight carry here, and we're going to check that 2.51 ounce claimed weight and make sure that that is exactly what's going on here. 2.6, they're claiming 2.51. I mean, that's super duper close, and any little thing can cause deviation from that. Before I jump into the review, I do like to run through my comparison knives to help you out there not familiar with this knife have a point of reference, and hopefully you're familiar with some of these knives that I use to do that. First up is going to be the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. This one is a DLT Training exclusive as well. 20 CV blades on both of these knives, and then hopefully you can see here, and I apologize, I forgot, I have started recently doing it so that I line up the heel of the knife so you can get a sense of just how long or short the knife is that I'm laying down on the table. So you can see this is a little bit smaller than the Yojimbo 2. Next up is going to be the Spyderco Shaman. This is a full-size offering here so that you can get a good reference. This is a more friendly EDC size, a little bit smaller, just over 3 inches on that blade length. Let me get these out of the way, and I'll go ahead and grab the crossbar lock and other USA made knife that I want to use for this comparison to substitute for the SIG. First up, going to be the Benchmade Bug Out, which is a really nice size reference here. As you can see, when you look at handle length to blade length, these are almost identical. The Bug Out is just slightly bigger, but these are both very thin, very friendly EDC size knives, so I thought that was very interesting. Next up, I'm going to bring out the Case Kenzua. This one here is $115 with S35VN aluminum handles and a frame lock, and as you can see, it is longer, but it does have a slightly more slender profile, but this is a very robust knife and a very nice comparison against this knife, I think, anyway, just to keep that whole USA comparison out of the first two set of knives going. Now, let me go ahead and grab my budget budget-friendly knives. First up is going to be the Kubi KU321, aka the Kubi Royal. This is slightly under 3 inches, but still pretty close in size. The last knife I'd like to bring out here is the very budget-friendly Buck 110 Plus. You can get this one for under $28, which is a fantastic value on this knife. As you can see, just a little bit longer than the Kubi and definitely significantly shorter than the Buck 110, but the Buck has that really slender profile. All right, let me go ahead and jump into this knife and give you my thoughts and impressions, and we'll talk a little bit about some alternative options if you're interested in that. Now, here's the kicker. This Blade HQ exclusive 20 CV made in USA knife is actually under $100. That is fantastic, exceptional value. It does have really well done G10 handles. They are sort of translucent. You can kind of see the phosphor bronze washer in there. This is a very thin knife. It does have a black G10 backspacer. I kind of wish they would have done that in the jade just to make it look a little bit nicer, but I don't know if that would have drove it up over 100, so I'm kind of glad they kept it under there. It does carry a little bit deeper on the pocket clip on tip down. If you have the pocket clip mounted here, it's about here for the mounting point, whereas here with this mounting point, you have this much blade sticking out. I know this is an older model that they're doing a Blade HQ exclusive variant of, but I wish there was some kind of way that they could have at least brought this up a little bit. I don't know if the blade would have engaged, but I wish they could have found a way to make it work, or just gotten rid of the lanyard hole and put like a little cutout here in the backspacer. That would have maybe potentially worked, like put it underneath and over, so they could have routed it over there and brought this back and brought the pocket clip up, because the pocket clip does not protrude outside of the liner. This is the next thing I wanted to talk about. It does have a steel liner on one side and jade G10 scale on the other, with the phosphor bronze washer separating it from the blade. That really helps with the weight and the thin profile. So again, this is a very thin EDC sized knife. The 20CV has been stone washed and done really well. This is one of the things about Kershaw that really impressed me, is the finishing details that they do on their blade and blade work, and it came from the factory with a fantastic edge, and Kershaw does a really good job. As you know, they are the budget brand for ZT, but you can see this thing has a sorry, the knife slipped out my hand there, guys. It has a fantastic edge, and it just moves through the paper with no resistance whatsoever. And then it offers very good ergonomics, so that when you go to use it to cut cardboard, again, it just slices through with almost no resistance. It feels so smooth going through the cardboard. I'm just really happy with the performance of the 20CV and the edge from Kershaw on this knife. The other thing I'm very excited about is this is not an assisted knife. This is totally a manual knife. There is absolutely no assist on this, and they did a pretty good job. Admittedly, the detent was a little light when I got it, and I'll throw that up there on the screen for you to see this now. You can see you can fail it pretty easily because the detent was too light. What I ended up doing was just taking the knife apart, cleaning it up a little bit, and working the lock bar over to get the detent a little bit stronger, to make it a little bit harder to fail. I can still fail it, but you could tell in the video before when I was, and that one I actually tried to do it again to lightly fail it, but I got the detent just strong enough to give it some resistance so that it's a little bit easier and a little more consistent to fire open. The other thing that's a little deceitful on here is it looks like it has thumb studs, but those are actually stop pins. They are really too small and too uncomfortable to actually be thumb studs for deployment. And you can see on the jade right here, a little bit of the dirt where it's hitting on the G10 scale from closing. And then this one here with the detent ball kind of acts like a clamp to lock it down in place. So it does have this here, and you can deploy it, but I end up sliding across it because it's too small and too light. So this is really, in my opinion, a functional flipper tab only, but it works really well and it sounds great. Very nice sound and very snappy. I like the ergos. Again, feels nice in hand. This cutout, my finger just fits in it just perfect, and it does have the flipper tab sticking down, acting like a finger guard as well. So this feels like it has a lot of hinderer vibes, or a lot of hinderer influences on it, from the thumb studs being the actual stop pins, and then the protruding flipper tab acting like a little bit of a guard. Access to the lock bars, it works very well. It's jimped out so that when you go to put your finger on top of it to slide it over, you get really nice grip. Phosphor bronze washers, so sorry, my finger I was all the way out here. phosphor bronze washers, so you're not going to get fall shut action. You can kind of slam it down if you want to, and it will go, but it feels, again, very smooth. And those phosphor bronze washers are going to hold up to dirt and debris a lot better than bearings. You're not going to get that bearing action, but it's going to hold up really well. Overall, this is a very interesting knife for being under $100 from Kershaw. The biggest complaint is going to be the pocket clip, and the other complaint is going to be the fact that, there's some aesthetics here that aren't great. The detent coming from Kershaw was a little weak. You can potentially fail it, but if you know how to disassemble your knife and you've seen any tutorial on how to tune the detent, you can easily see. I'm trying to fail it just to see. You can easily tune it up just a little bit for it to work really nicely. I do love the look of the blade. The blade shape is great. It has a deep drop point, so when you go in for those utility cuts, it's going to work really well. And Kershaw did a really good job on the edge from the factory. Now, time will tell how they did with their heat treat when I get to a point where I may need to sharpen it, but that's going to take a while because I've started to get in the habit of when I actually use the knife for any type of task, that night I just sit down, strop it a couple of times on each side, and just try to make that edge last as long as I can before I get to the point where I need to sharpen the blade down any. And 20 CV is going to last a really long time. But again, 20 CV, a made in the USA knife. Granted, it is a small EDC, but it is a made in the USA knife for under $100. That is really compelling. Now, I did carry this knowing that I was going to do the review today, and I wanted to talk about the fact that the DLT uncoated version of this exclusive variant of the Andela is available for $107, and it is FRN versus G10. It is a lockback versus a liner lock, but both have 20 CV and both are made in the USA, so that is something else that you could consider. This was the other option, which is why I swapped it out for the SIG, because it's $115. It is S35N, which is a steel I still like very much. It is a frame lock, but it is a USA made knife on bearings. So when you get past the detent break, it is very smooth. So that should be a nice indication of the action. And it has a very well done stone wash from case. But keep in mind, that came really close to my nail. This is a very thick, robust geometry. This is a working knife, and it is really noticeable when you go through the material. Actually, I still have that paper and stuff over here. When you go through the materials, you can just really tell. You can feel that resistance through the paper to test the geometry. And then when you go through the cardboard, especially the thicker cardboard, let me get this piece out of here. You can really tell it goes through it, but you can feel the resistance, like you have to work a little bit harder. I kicked all those pieces off the screen. That's awesome. You have to kick it a little bit harder through and to get the results that you want. But still, those are two really compelling options for alternatives if you wanted them. Now, this is a really good buy, and I'm actually going to put it in my recommended under $100 list, which sounds crazy to say about a USA made knife, but Kershaw, this is perfect. Between this and the bare knuckle, please make more manual flipper knives, manual deployment knives, thumb studs, flipper, dual deployment, all the good stuff. When you make these knives and they're designed like this, especially with this blade shape, this is such an awesome blade shape. I probably would have just asked to take a little bit of the curvature out, take a little bit of the knockdown out, and make the liner come up a little bit taller, and just had the knife, stop right about here so that the finger's not all the way in there, because the finger, when it's all the way in there, I can get it in there pretty far. But I think even just a little bit lower than that would have been great. But still, this is an awesome deal. 20 CV, G10, liner lock, USA made, well done. Really like it. I know this is an older model, a little weird with the stop pins, but I think it kind of makes sense too because it's such a thin knife. Actually, my thinnest knife out here, besides this one, is going to be the bug out. And the bug out with the contouring, it's really hard because, let me try it from the side now, because contouring is going to do the same thing, I think. Contouring is going to make this look a little bit thicker because it does have just a slight contour to it, but this is just as thin as the bug out, and I don't know if that's what it was intended to go after, but here you go. Para 3 and Yojimbo 2, you can see it's actually thinner than that, and they accomplished that by having the one steel liner to facilitate the lock bar. So really great knife for the money. I really do like this one a lot, especially after tuning the detent. I do want to, there is that caveat. I did have to tune the detent, and I want to make sure that I mentioned that repeatedly to let anyone who's watching know. And of course, the pocket clip's not that great, and it's not in a position where I think even if I find a fold over option that I think it's going to work, because even with the fold over option, you're still going to have like a lot left out that sticks out of the pocket. And it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. I don't want to blow over it and make it seem like it's not a big deal. It is unfortunate. I wish they would have done it a little bit different or revised it, even though it's an older model for this release, because this thing, the deployment feels great with a slightly heavier detent. The steel, the stone wash, there's so much about this knife that I really like and that I'm happy and excited about, and you will see a long-term review. I'm going to keep this one around because this is going to be a nice alternative option for a USA made steel 20 CV USA made knife under $100, folks. This is definitely one to check out. If you don't like the aesthetics, you don't like the deep carry, and you don't like the jade, you can pass it over, like I said. But I think even if you don't like the jade, just do a little bit of a RIT dye job, and I think you'll be just fine, because, you know, I did the black RIT dye on the jade here, and the charcoal came out really nice, and this is immediately what I started to think of for this knife when I picked it up, because the jade is just a little too much for me, and I think it'd look really good with that black RIT dye. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, do me a favor, leave a like. If you aren't subscribed, think about subscribing and turning that notification bell on. I have lots of good content coming out just like this. If you are subscribed, thank you. I appreciate you so much. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.